It's Bible Forum time. This is, call it lesson number 2 of the week for March 26th. We're looking at a compendium of this week's oddities. A lot of things happen that just kind of get overlooked. I read this week that Al Gore was back hard at work speaking at an event to promote his latest global warming documentary. It's called An Inconvenient Sequel: Truth to Power. He says the Brexit vote, where Britain votes to get out of the EU last summer, was the result of, quote, political instability, end of quote, created by the stress caused by climate change. Climate change induced chaos in the Middle East. It all began in Syria, he says. From 2006 to 2010, 60% of the farms in Syria were destroyed. 80% of the livestock were killed. The drought in the eastern Mediterranean is the worst ever on record. Now, the record they're working with goes back 900 years. It's historic. And 1.5 million climate refugees were driven into the cities of Syria, where they collided with refugees from the Iraq War. This, Gore went on to explain, led to the incredible flow of refugees into Europe, which is creating political instability and which contributed in some ways to the desire of some in the UK to say, whoa, we're not so sure we want to be a part of this anymore. See how this works? Global warming caused this problem. Not the Taliban, not ISIS, not, what's the guy in Syria? What's his title? I think he's a president. He's really a dictator. None of that. It was global warming. But then, here comes an inconvenient truth. A study led by Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory and scientists from 6 countries examined a geological sample revealing more than 200,000 years of climate history in the Dead Sea region. Drilling down 1,500 feet, quote, all observations show this region is one of the most affected by modern climate change, and it's predicted to get drier, end of quote. This from the lead author and geochemist at the Columbia Observatory. He says, what we showed is that even under natural conditions, it can become much drier than predicted by any of our models. Before the gates of hell opened in Syria, what happened was a climate-related extreme drought. 200,000 years ago, there was this drought, and there was no climate change as we know it today. And we recovered from it and went into one of the most prolific growing times the world has seen. Back around 1300, 1400, 1500 AD. But now, everything's at risk. As a new British study links diabetes with climate change. Too much sugar in the diet. But a dry climate? And these are the best minds we have. Former President Hosni Mubarak is free. You've been following any of this? It's really gotten old. After 6 years of trials, he's gone from symbolizing all that was wrong with the Middle East dictators to being the emblem of Egypt's dashed hopes. In 2011, Mubarak was deposed and arrested for crimes against the people. It had to do with his ordering police troops to quell the riots. The Muslims rose up and he put down the riot, and people died, and he went to jail. Today, in just a year after his successor, Mohamed Morsi, was elected, Millions took to the streets demanding the Muslim Brotherhood's politicians' resignation, prompting the army to oust and to detain him. Many Egyptians began to yearn for the banality of Mubarak's era, while activists who spearheaded his ouster found their own selves in jail. Mubarak was the fourth president of the Arab Republic of Egypt, founded in 1952 when the military overthrew the monarchy. It appears only military leaders can rule effectively in Egypt. This is one of those only in California, maybe. Walter Reed School in California is one of 9 schools that were notified by the State Board of Education that their budget would be cut next year. Do you know why? Well, their demographics have changed. And now there are not enough black students in these schools to justify the extra financing. Class size will therefore increase from 34 students to 39. We only had 22 to 28 when I was in school. They will lose 5 teachers, a librarian, a counselor, and a full-time nurse. None of the teachers are going to get laid off. They'll just be moved around. Parents of Walter Reed students say they're stunned. Some express concern for Walter Reed's teachers who are being asked to do more with fewer resources. This is what happens with state education rather than with public education. Apropos of absolutely nothing, just of interest to me, of the top 10 wealthiest people in the world, only 3 live outside continental U.S. of A. Have you seen Chelsea Clinton in the news lately? She was in the news this weekend with a stupid tweet, and people went after her like crazy. But Chelsea Clinton will be among several honored with Variety magazine's Lifetime Impact Award in April. The award is going to be given during the magazine's annual Women in Power luncheon in Manhattan. Chelsea is now 37 years old, and she's being recognized for, quote, her work with Alliance for a Healthier Generation, which empowers kids to develop lifelong healthy habits, end of quote. This alliance is a Clinton Foundation initiative, along with the American Heart Association. This is where the people on the board give the chairman an award. The Alliance for a Healthier Generation works to reduce the prevalence of childhood obesity and to empower kids to develop lifelong healthy habits. The Alliance works with schools, companies, community organizations, healthcare professionals, families to transform the conditions and systems that lead to healthier children. I wonder how many of these Chelsea was working with. Honestly, this is just a feel-good initiative. I mean, how do you encourage lifelong healthy habits in children? The list includes everything and everyone you can imagine except parents. The secularists, progressives are working to undermine parents, to undermine families and individuals by supporting their liberty to be and to do whatever makes them feel good, and then spending millions to compensate through programs, and then giving people who have done nothing a great big award. Probably comes with some money. Can you say scam? Documents obtained by Judicial Watch show that a federal agency was either denying conservative and Christian groups the same status or making them wait for years. We remember the hearings. I actually went through that, applied for tax-exempt status for my ministry. It was promptly rejected. And several months later, as I was talking to a man about how to, dissolve it, here comes a letter from the government saying, oh, we reconsidered. According to a watchdog group that uncovered the IRS scandal during the Obama administration, the after-school Satan Club of Point Defiance Elementary in Tacoma applied for its tax-exempt status on October 21st, 2014. Received it only 10 days later, October 31st. Mine was denied that same summer. Isn't it amazing? The sign on the bathroom door in a local business read, "We do not have a transgender bathroom, so don't be caught in the wrong one." I call that a simple warning in light of bathroom attacks of late. I call that a proprietor who is doing everything they can to not just protect people, but to protect their own liability. But a transgender woman walked in and saw that sign, and to her, it was a threat. She said, "That sign has an implied threat, and the threat is very real to me." I think she needs to shop someplace else. Remember last week I told you how most Americans were comfortable with female pastors? I mentioned how God is not. He has specifically specified men, but I digress. Go back and check out what we talked about last week. Now there's a group of female clergy from Iowa who wrote a letter this week to publicly state their support for the abortion chain Planned Parenthood. The letter, published in the Des Moines Register on Wednesday, included signatures from 7 women pastors from the United Church of Christ, the United Methodist Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, the Episcopal Church, the Unitarian Universalist Association, Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and the Unity Church. A note included with the letter said the pastors were not speaking on behalf of their denominations or their congregations. Not one of these groups, not one, traditionally, meaning in the last 50 to 80 years, has read the Bible the way they read a newspaper. Not one. You can't and be what these people are. A presumably religious, church-going Christian family has been trying to adopt a child from China. In their effort, they fell short of a monthly payment to the adoption agency, apparently $800 a month until they got I think it was $5,000 they needed to put up front. But they were believing the Lord. Now, this is a relatively new phrase designed to express our faith in God. They were believing the Lord for $10,000. That's double what the adoption agency required. And toward the end of February, they had only $4,200. One more payment, and they'd have made it. Then the prospective mother read a prophetic word from an author she didn't know, a female author. Published in Charisma, an online article headlined 2017 Prophecy, "The Lord is Releasing Angels of Abundant Harvest." That showed up on a Facebook page. This lady who's looking to adopt a child. It showed up on her Facebook page one Sunday afternoon. Written by the magazine's senior editor, Jennifer LeClaire, who is a wealth of information for me. Article after article after almost anything this woman says is fodder for this show. And based on her book of the same title, the word read in part, quote, "Provision will enter your life from unexpected places." Have you been to a palm reader? They say stuff like that. "I see something in your future." Well, what is it? Well, I don't know, but it's something. She went on to say, quote, "I am releasing the angels of abundant harvest." My question is, why did you have them locked up in the first place? And if you didn't have them locked up, how do you get to release them? "But I am releasing the angels of abundant harvest. They will minister blessings to the heirs of salvation. They will bring provision and protection from the enemy's sword." And Nikki knew that was just for her. Within days of claiming the word for themselves, the Swensons received word that a Long Island woman they had met once in 2010 during a visit in New York said she was sending money. And so there you are. Prayer works. But believing God for an answer in response to a prophetic word from someone you never met in a very vague way that didn't even apply to your situation except in a very general sense, that's how it really works. And This is a system, my friends, that's growing throughout the visible church in America. Do not denigrate God's provision or anyone's faith. But this is a technique. This is not faith. And spiritual techniques are witchcraft. Tomorrow is World Down Syndrome Day. Did you know that? Have you ever seen a Down syndrome child? It's a day to celebrate the lives of these special people. And according to a recent article on John Piper's Desiring God website, those with Down syndrome are some of the happiest people alive. 99% of those who answer in the survey, 97% who answered affirmatively when they were asked, "Do you like who you are?" Another 99% agreed with the statement, "I love my family." No other group of people approaches this high level of satisfaction and happiness in their lives. And these are the children we're most likely to abort. Well, because their life is going to be so hard? No, because it might infringe on my quality of life. That's the harsh truth. When we come back, we're going to look at Israel in biblical prophecy on display. Stay with us.